Good day guys, my name is Lil Tomo. Welcome to another Sonic the Hedgehog toy item collector video. As you know, I'm Lil Tomo with the good old blue star Sonic the Hedgehog. Let's put him aside and bring out his girlfriend. This is none other than Modern Amy Rose. I need to give a special shout out to Jacinda. She was actually one that told me about this plush when it first initially came out. I actually didn't know at the time. I was like, what? Normally I'm on the ball when it comes to these things, and it just goes to show you that if there's something that you know that you may think I don't know, it's always good to let me know. Because I don't know everything, you know. I have a busy life, I always have things going on, so I might not always be up to date with my sort of Sonic information in terms of when things can come out and whatnot. But this is currently out. I did purchase this on eBay because regretfully here in Australia they don't appreciate us as much as I would have hoped, but nonetheless I did get it, so big shout out to Jacinda for letting me know. So this is, as you're going to read, Modern Amy Rose, and I want to say straight out of the bat I'm absolutely in love with this plush. There is a slight visual uncanniness about this plush that made me go I will address those of course, but let's of course go to the actual general overview. First and foremost, as I mentioned, and I'll repeat myself, this is Modern Amy Rose. It is a different iteration to the classic Amy Rose. Basically what makes her unique is her eyes. She's slightly bigger, and of course her dress and her shoes, and she's meant to have a piko hammer, which is one of the drawbacks that I will address shortly. But other than that, it is created by the greatest company, I'm not going to say the greatest, one of the best companies that are currently out there, which is Great Eastern Entertainment. And there's the little hashtag plush over there, Great Eastern Entertainment. Of course, with most of the plushes, they do have small hiccups that don't take away anything from the plush themselves. It's just things that I would have recommended or personally would have preferred. But of course, let's go into the nitty gritty. I'll bring this as close as possible. You have a head sculpt, which automatically is extremely well stuffed and is awesome. Great. I love when they do that, because I don't like flimsy plushes that have pretty thickness in one and just completely nullifies to non-existent in certain parts. It makes it look flimsy, it makes it look droopy, and I hate that. And of course you have her face, which is it is material based, so this actual part is kind of, I think, linen. I'm not 100% sure. I know of the material, I don't know its name exactly. That's the actual eye pupil, and the actual, which I thought it was pretty fascinating when I first received it, the actual eye lining or her little lashes and whatnot, they're actually a material based. This black bit is material. That one looks like it's kind of like pressed on marker, or kind of like a material based like the actual eye themselves. I'll probably say it's a pressed on marker. I'm not too fussed about that. I'm just thinking from my usability and messing around and having fun point of view, that eventually that would worn out. But if you're a collector and don't necessarily care, I'm sure it's going to last quite a while. So awesome attention to detail. As you can tell, there's slightly different variations of it, which I guess adds a little character, because when it comes to plushes or anything in general, it doesn't really bother that much that it's not 100% symmetrical on either side. It doesn't me. I mean, if it's completely off, like if that is like or something, I can understand. Of course, they have the eyes, which I think is absolutely superb. Very green, very bright, very nice. It is a iron pressed material, so it isn't sculpted or it isn't stitched on. It's literally just a material. One of those things where you can press onto the it's on my tongue. One of those things you can press on a material and iron on, and it would basically stick. So it's iron pressed, kind of like a sticker. I'm sure there's a correct terminology for it, but I'm calling it that. But nonetheless, it is superb, and it is exactly the same for the mouth, which I think is pretty cute, which is adorable. And of course, you have a button for a nose, which is absolutely superb. So from a aesthetic visual point of view, from a frontal point of view, absolutely superb, as you can probably tell. Extremely adorable. You have, of course, her ears, extremely well stitched, of course. And if you look at the angle, it kind of looks derpy, but it kind of works at the same time. It's because we rarely see from a side angle Sonic characters or any characters. So when they make it into 3D, kind of like, oh, okay, that's something we can grow with. I guess you could argue sometimes you do some, but yeah. But yeah, nonetheless, there's that. and it is extremely well stuffed. And of course you have a little fringe, extremely well stuffed, absolutely superb. I can't go wrong with it. It always flips on my side to the opposite direction. I'm not 100% sure why. I'm not 100% sure if anybody else has the same thing, but either way, it's like fringes are rarely ever forward anyway, so it makes sense why. And of course, custom to GE Entertainment, they added like a string, which if you want to hang it, you can. It's totally up to you. It's extremely functional. It serves a greater purpose, funny enough. I have read people who hate this and they'll cut it off. I'm not fussed about it, because if you ever want to hang your plushies, it would look better sometimes on a wall than it is on the shelf, which I'm going to have mine. But the fact that it even has it as an option is great. Of course, you have a headband there, which doesn't necessarily go all around. As you can see, it just like stops there, stops on that side, doesn't go around from the back here or anything. I'm not necessarily fussed about that. It adds to the authenticity. That's not even a word, is it? It adds to the legitness of the actual way it's designed in the game and comic to the actual plush line. So it makes sense why they had it the way they did. Just a personal preference. I would have preferred it to go under, even though you wouldn't visually go out of your way to look at it. It's just a nitpick of mine. It doesn't take anything away from this plush whatsoever. It's a superb plush nonetheless. Now, of course, you have her actual quills at the back, very thick, very stern, very respectfully plays homage to the actual game itself. Great, and it's superb. So the head sculpt itself is great and superb in every conceivable way. The next thing is, of course, the arms. The arms are exactly symmetrical on either side, unlike the other plushes, for example, Vector, where they'll basically have one different pose and whatnot. This one's exactly the same on either side. Not bad, not complaining. Extremely well stuffed from the actual pivot point of the shoulder blades all the way down on both sides. And of course, you kind of have like a golden bracelet, aka could be seen as a ring, but I'm just going to say it's a bracelet. And you have, of course, her hand. Now, everything except her thumb is pretty much stitched into place to give the illusion of the finger. I'm not bummed by that. It's a thing that plush designers need to do. Of course, I can imagine if you want a super comprehensive exclusive premier plush creation, it's going to cost an arm and a leg, and is that a profitable market? I'm sure they've weighed out the differences, and to make a design of this caliber, I think is absolutely superb. You know, I'm sure, you know, they're a high caliber, but as you can imagine, those ones cost arm and a leg. The stuff that comes from Japan, Joypolis, yeah, they're pretty expensive as is when they first get released. So yeah, so you have the thumb, which is literally not a stitched on effect to give the illusion of a finger. It is literally a finger. So I guess if you wanted to, you could cut it off and you would just have a hand like that. No, not a fan of it. I would prefer the way it's done like that. It's exactly the same on the other side. Next, you have a dress. You can't go wrong with a dress. Her dress is as is in the game. Very simple, very basic. Red and white. You have a collar there, and in this interesting fashion, it actually goes all the way to the back, which I thought was pretty awesome for detail. It wasn't needed, but they did it. Bonus points. So it goes around. It's kind of a strap-on dress. I think that's what it's called. I don't know. I don't wear dresses much. No, I don't wear dresses at all. But it goes all around, and it's superb. And of course, there's your back dress. And of course, you have the hashtag at the very back, which is awesome. I love when they do. God, I love when they do stuff like that. It seems nonsensical as something to bring out. You're like, why are you even talking about a hashtag? But when you start collecting plushes in general, or just observing them, especially from myself, I've never really collected plushes, only recently because of certain manufacturers and whatnot. But the fact that they go out of the way and place them in very obscurious, that's not even a word, in very obnoxious areas, for example in the head, in the face and whatnot, just around here, it's just like, why? Of course it encourages you to rip it off, but then from a collector's point of view, aka myself, it serves no purpose. So the fact that they put it in a nice visible area, but in an area that doesn't take away from the actual plush itself, is always a bonus. Of course, I have to bring this criticism up. I've always do this with GE Entertainment. I'm going to hammer this home until they change it. It says plush Sonic the Hedgehog. Yes, we know it's from the Sonic the Hedgehog series, but this is Amy Rose. And for those who don't know or anything of that nature, might get confused, but I guess from a parental point of view, if they see this, they're like, oh, well, it's Sonic the Hedgehog, it must be, so my kid must know this. Like I said, I get why they do it. I would prefer if they didn't. Does it take anything away from it? I guess you could argue, because she's, you know, pink. and Sonic is blue, so completely different. But like I said, if they had like Sonic the Hedgehog Amy, for example, and a picture of Amy somewhere, that would be an awesome compromise. But it is what it is, and they do it the way they do it. I ain't gonna complain. And of course you have the back hashtag with a QR code at the bottom and the greatest entertainment at the top. Great. So next you have a dress, and for those who are perverted, here it is. She does have underwear on. They're very white. You cannot remove them. It is part of the stitching. I don't know why I would have to bring it up, but I'm sure there's going to be a person that's going to ask that question. Superb detailed design, extremely well stuffed across the leg and including the foot. Great, I love that. The shoes, you can't go wrong. There's the little the sole or the neck of the shoes, and if you can put them down further, of course they're slightly stitched, so you can't put them all the way down. Great attention to detail, not needed, but they did it. The shoes predominantly red and white, as you can tell, nothing there, and it's exactly the same on both legs. And once again, not necessarily needed, but they did it. They could have made the foot of the shoe one shade, which is this shade, but the fact that they even made a different shade of grey to make the foot of the shoe more visible, prominent, absolutely superb. GE Entertainment, or Greatest Entertainment, has always been a company that I am completely and utterly in love with, simply because of their attention to details. It's the small minor things that just changes everything. You know what I mean? Like, on hindsight, that bottom foot of the shoe would be like, who cares, right? But the fact that you got myself, and I'm sure there's other people that might agree with it, they will go that extra mile and say, I love this plush, but I would prefer if they did something else. Does it take away anything from the plush? Not at all. But the fact that they've even added it as a preconceived idea to say, okay, well, collector or person who's into their plushes may look into that as a detail, let's add it. So they're really on board with that kind of stuff. I can't thank them enough, and I don't even get promoted by them. This is purely my opinion. They're superb, they're great, they're awesome, and whatnot. Now, how does it stack up with the other characters? She's slightly a little smaller than Sonic and the other bigger characters, especially smaller than Vector, and I think she's in the same part of the S, but you can check them out, the review. That being said, the fact that it's scaled in proportion to every other character is always a major plus. I love when they do it, because it just really shows you that they really care about the creation of the plush. Now, there is a visual I guess thing that, like, you have her, right, and you kind of, okay, I'm going to put it in perspective, right. Her legs looks like they're kind of extremely parted ways. It works, but at the same time, I'm just going to put her dress down. So it works, but at the same time, it looks like she has a massive leg spread in between the dress. It doesn't take anything away from it, but it's visually off-putting. I would have preferred it if they had it stitched closer together. That made more sense, but the fact that they let it spread as much as they did, it kind of, kind of looks weird. Guys, leave a comment if you think you agree with that. Other than that, it is a superb plush. I got it from eBay. It is there already, 1 star out of 10. I got it for roughly about, I think it was about $15, but I got it with other items, etc., and it came out pretty cheap in shipping. So you're looking at roughly $15. A little pricey, I'd say so, but is it worth it? Definitely. Look, it's GE have made some phenomenal plushes out there, especially in the Sonic, and the fact that they've even gone out of the way to do it is awesome. So I really encourage you guys to support them. Buy these if you ever see them, because, I mean, don't stockpile them, but buy one for yourself, of course, or kids, or whatever the case may be, and it's really great. Thank you, Jacinda, for letting me know about this. You can buy on Amazon, eBay, very cheap, very affordable, and great. It's just gonna look awesome next to my other ones. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for checking out my review. Till next time, speed on, peace.